He has a 1-1 count. That one's struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the wall. You have to be kidding me. Fireworks. Here you go.
Class 4A fans, welcome in. Special edition of High and Tight. Well, special every single Monday. We're going to make your Monday just a little better or worse, I guess, if your team dropped in the poll. But we don't need to talk about that. Class 4A rankings coming your way in a matter of seconds. Hopefully, we make your Monday better and not worse. We'll go with that, Andrew. Hey, tons of movement, though. 13 of the 15 slots in this week's poll have a different team by that little number. And we've got two new teams this week in the rankings. Let's get right into it, where you're going to see the two new teams inside this little 15 through 11 slot. Hawkeyes and Urbandale, welcome to the rankings. Both those teams making their first debut in the 2024 poll. Lots to like from those teams. We also got Hawkeyes, Northwest, and Liberty at 15 and 14. Northwest, a really tough slate this week. I'm not going to personally knock them too much. I know that pitching staff is going to come into play and win them a lot of games, so not panic mode at all. And Cedar Falls holds on to that spot. Andrew, I know you've liked Hawkeyes so far this year. What's it like about the Warriors?
You know what? This is a team that not too long ago, in the last couple of years, we've seen them as a perennial state tournament team. Obviously with the split, things have gone a dip down just a little bit here. But man, I love Coach Dirks and company. I love what they do because they can put on shows like they did against Ankeny Centennial. 9 runs in the 4th inning, and really taking it to the previous number one team, I should say, as this is we'll see how things shake out here. But honestly, I like Hawkeyes. You go up against the top 5 team in general, and you're going to have a challenge. Hawkeyes didn't do that. They had a really good game there. Of course, they're a little bit up and down, but this is going to be that team come postseason that you go, oh man. Can we play somebody else? I think that this is going to be that program. I like that they've shooken out pretty well. They have 70 total bases on the year, so they're kind of slowly getting there. The batting average isn't certainly where they want it to be, but they're still cooking pretty well in what is a very strong CIML, and they've got a lot. They got a lot going for them. So I think they can do this. Ultimately they'll continue to put forth. I mean, again. Coach Dirks led squad will bounce back, and I think this could be a little bit of a step up year for him.
Absolutely. Hey, Urbandale at number 12. Good start for the Jayhawks. They got swept by DCG. Obviously, we're seeing what DCG is set up for so far this year, but a really good season outside of those games. They beat Bettendorf by 1 run. Bettendorf always proven to be a tough team, and they 10 run Southeast Polk. And as you can see, Southeast Polk not in this slot of teams because they're in the next one. So they've already got a win over a top 10 team in Southeast Polk. And the story behind Urbandale so far, Brock Moore, the senior, he's got 10 hits, and 5 of them coming for extra bases. 2 of those being the long ball. His slash line, he's hitting 667. He's getting on base at a 783 clip, and he's slugging at over 1,200. So Urbandale and Hawkeyes, welcome to the rankings. Let's get into 10 through 6, though, Andrew, as we debut these squads. And as you can see, Southeast Polk and Linn-Mar making huge jumps. Southeast Polk is the biggest riser in our week 2 poll. But Andrew, you've liked Linn-Mar so far this year. What's to like about the Lions?
Oh man, they've come out pretty strong here. They've had a couple losses here in this one, but prior to this week, splits against Prairie, Cedar Falls really showed that they were there. They got some guys that I've heard from scouts that are legitimate D1 prospects. They're of course some of them underclassmen, so can't quite make that move up to actually be recruited yet. But there's a lot of hype around some of these guys that have done really well at the club scene. But so far, what have they showed us this week against Iowa City West and Waterloo West? and they have allowed more than 5 runs once. And overall, you look at that, 4 times this entire season so far have they allowed over 5 runs. Just 4 times out of all the games that they have played so far. It's been fun. This is a team that last year had some big movement across the season. And this year, I agree, they need to be in here because they're making waves. They're doing what they need to do. Their schedule coming on up will test them quite a bit as they have Iowa City High, West Delaware, and Kennedy. That's going to test them to wrap up the month of May. That really is. If they get through that, I think they are in serious consideration for like a top 10, top 5 type of a team. They're playing the schedule that they need to in order to get there. And I think that going forward, it's just not going to get any easier. So I think I like them. They have a lot going for them. Their pitching has been on point so far. And honestly, sitting with a 362 average at this point, there's not a lot that they are doing wrong. A top 5 team in slugging and on base. And that's the stat line that you say is, hey, how much are you getting on? How are you getting on? How well are you doing at the plate? And their line tells it all for you. I think that they're not hiding anything. They've had 29 walks, so they're patient. They can do so. The Mississippi Valley will not give them any free passes, so I think the conference slate will help them out too. I like Lamar.
Absolutely. Before I do talk about Southeast Polk, our biggest riders of the week, Dowling. They've got a big week this week. They got Centennial and Johnston in the same week, so Dowling sitting at number 7, but they've got a shot to pick up 1, 2, however many wins against those top teams inside our top 5 could really shoot them up the rankings, and I think we're set to see what could be a really, really good pitching matchup tomorrow, Andrew, between Dowling and Ankeny Centennial. Go ahead and put the little eyes emojis, if you would, for that one. I'm excited to follow that. But no, Southeast Polk. I mean, Andrew, this is a team we frankly knew hardly anything about going into this season. Last year, obviously, made the state tournament, graduated a really, really big senior class, and it was kind of a big question mark next to Southeast Polk heading into the preseason, but they've changed that question mark into an exclamation point, you could say, because they're off to a really good start. Obviously, they got 10 run by Urbandale. That was the lone blemish, but they've got a doubleheader sweep over Ames, doubleheader sweep over Pleasant Valley, and a doubleheader sweep over Roosevelt and Council Bluffs Lincoln. So Southeast Polk out the gates hot. Maddox O'Connor, I should say, second in the entire state in RBI with 16 thus far. He's leading the way, and I mean the pitching staff, a team pitching staff of 2-2-3 and a team whip of 1-3-5. So Southeast Polk out of the gates hot, and our rankers rewarding them early. But hey, let's get into our top 5 for Class 4A, where we do have movement and a new number 1, and that's because Centennial takes a dip down to number 5. Obviously fell to Hawkeyes. They get wins at their invitational this last weekend over Davenport North and North Polk. That North Polk is a good win. They beat up on a good team there. Not panic mode at all for Centennial. I think this is just those early season losses having to knock you down a little. And with the top 5 that we're seeing in Class 4A, Andrew, I mean it's there's a little room for error if you want to keep that number by your name, because there are a handful of teams right behind you every single week that are just putting up some crazy stats.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that you're right. This has been more of if you're kind of just continuing along at the same pace, you may drop, and not for a lack of what you've done, but maybe for what other teams are doing. We've already seen some huge jumps in this class and other classes. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that this is a team that's still strong overall. Holistically, they're a big team, but overall, as I'm looking through the stats here, normally you'd get to see a team of their caliber offensively with somebody in the top 10 or top 50 of hits. There's nobody right now in the top, I'll say 30, 40 for Ankeny Centennial in hits overall. So I think that's where their offense still needs to kind of click and a little bit. And obviously, they put up 11 runs against a good North Polk team, as we mentioned. But I think the scary part is they have yet to find that stride, and they have yet to get to where that we've seen them. We've already seen some good defensive stuff from guys like Alberhosky and so forth. I know that we've had some big home runs. Hawkeyes had a big home run as well. Alberhosky, as I mentioned, has taken a team deep as well. So honestly, they have the number. They have some stuff going for them. But yeah, the way that you have other teams around them, absolutely just scorching through their schedule. It's going to be tough unless you do the same to keep pace of where you're at.
Absolutely, and kind of just a small sample size for Centennial so far. However, it be their schedule didn't throw as many games up early in the season, so to each his own there. But Centennial, they're gonna have a shot this week against the team right ahead of them, right here, Dallas Center Grimes. They've just been scorching. The big one this week, like I said, DCG and Ankeny Centennial on the 30th. That one's going to be one that you're going to have to circle. But I mean, last week they beat Harlan. They've already beat Boone. Doubleheader sweep over Waukee Northwest, who we know is up there in Class 4A. That was a really competitive doubleheader, 11-8 and 2-1. I mean, DCG, Andrew, this is a team you've seen, and so far it's green light so far.
Yeah, and they've done so with the 11th best schedule in Class 4A. And I will say, I believe the 11th best schedule overall. I'd argue, not officially, but again, the 11th best schedule in 4A. They've gone up against, even if they go down classes, they've take on really tough teams. So their slate has been nothing short. They've come up through, and again, what do they got here? One of the best run differentials of 4A teams right now, plus 5.3 on the season. So they're making it. They're putting it up, and I think they're doing so with some of the best arms in the business. We mentioned Keaton Fenn. He started out the season with 15 strikeouts and has only added from there with this entire program is doing. So yeah, I like it. I like Mr. Gray there. What a phenomenal story he has been already. I believe the Notre Dame commit is already 28 total bases. How do you get that? Well, he is one of just 3 individuals to have a slugging mark over 1,000. That is impressive. In 4A, he's done a lot of that. Again, only 3 players. 2 of them, I guess, I think you can guess who they're from. But ultimately, yeah, Gray and Company, phenomenal.
We got one more slot before we get to those guys. I know exactly who you're talking about, but no, City High at number 3 is another one of the beneficiaries of Centennial dropping all these teams, slotting up one. So we got Johnston and Kennedy yet to debut here between number 1 and number 2. We'll see who lands where. But City High, I mean, they took care of business last week. A little bit of a I don't like saying lighter week as far as competition goes, but it was. I mean, they beat up Davenport West, beat up Waterloo West, and then they get the doubleheader sweep over their rival in Iowa City West. It's going to pick up this week, though. Andrew, Linn-Mar, Cedar Falls, Western Dubuque. We're going to learn a lot about City High this week, but so far, I mean, Talon Young's leading the way on the pitching staff, and the offense is coming to play. City High, another one of this top 5 teams in Class 4A that's just proven to just be almost unstoppable, it looks like.
Yeah, and they're just shy of 20 total extra base hits on the year. So they can spray the ball in any direction, and they can do so for extra bases. That's always tough because you're as defensively, you're behind the 8 ball right away with this program and what they got. And then you mentioned on the other end, they got guys who can throw straight gas. I tell you what, it's fun to watch what they've got going on the mound. And you mentioned, guys like Salibi and others who have really make this team what it is. And it's fun. I think they deserve it. They're a deserved number 3 team. They've stayed consistent. And yeah, I mean, honestly, they've put a lot of pieces in play here. So I think that they're going to be a team that's going to be hard to knock off the top 3 going forward.
Absolutely. Well, Johnston and Kennedy, Andrew, the 2 teams remaining, as I mean, you could make a discussion for either at this point. We're going to see in about 3 seconds who it is. It's Kennedy at number 2. I mean, this is like our weekly, like, however, 2 to 3 minute just rant on how incredible Kennedy is to start the year. They're 2-0 against the
Yeah.
CIML, so you can't really knock them for their schedule. It's been Hempstead, CR Wash, CR Jeff, and Dubuque Senior. I mean, nothing crazy, but it's gonna pick up. They got Western Dubuque and Linn-Mar just on the horizon. City High next week. But I mean, the stats are just, I mean, incredible. You could go so many different ways about this Kennedy team. 20 home runs as a team, Andrew. My gosh. Well, what are these guys eating? I mean, I need whatever plan these guys are on as far as their meal goes. These guys are eating their Wheaties every morning. Grant Mothra
Yes,
with
they are.
seven homers for Grant Mothra, and your state RBI leading Nolan Graw. He's got 18 RBI and 5 homers. I mean, the team's hitting 348. They're slugging 685 as a squad. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll hand it over to you, Kennedy. Go. I mean, it's impossible to not talk about how good they are.
I mean, yeah, I think the only knock is they haven't done more. I mean, holy cow. I don't know where else you could say it. 22 doubles along with their 20 home runs. They all have almost as many home runs as they do doubles and triples. It is nuts. And the fact that they've only had 37 strikeouts and the fact that they also have 51 walks. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. They got two of the top total base earners in the state. I mean, there's no way that you look at this team and go, oh yeah, sure, they're a 3 and below. Like, no. They're clearly one of the hottest teams and by the looks of it, it's sustainable. Again, a lot of guys who are heading to the next level, a lot of guys who are just, again, on fire right now. I know it's kind of the same old story, but what have we seen the last couple weeks? The same old story. They've come out firing, and they do a whole lot of great. And then on the other end of it, top 10 ERA team in 4A. So they're holistically one of the best teams out there. I mean, there's not much more to say than that. They are ranking it in every aspect of it, and good for them.
Absolutely. Well, Kennedy and Johnston, as I reveal them as your new number one team in Class 4A. Kennedy and Johnston, the first two teams in the entire state of Iowa to 10 wins, and they are both 10-0. So 1-2 punch here in Class 4A could be pretty dangerous. But now Johnston, I mean, we got to talk about them too because they're I mean, maybe statistically they're not as scorching hot, but at the end of the day, it's go out and you win baseball games, and that's what Johnston's doing last week. A doubleheader sweep over Waukee Northwest. They also beat Valley, beat Roland Story, and then beat Sioux City East, who's no slouch. So, I mean, Johnston is playing the ball that we're used to seeing from them. I mean, let's see, they're hitting 350 as a team, slugging 45. It's hard to match. It's hard to talk about these guys after talking about Kennedy because Kennedy's just leading everything statistically. But I mean, Tyne Whedon, 3 triples. They're hitting for extra bases. The pitching has been solid, a 1.72 staff ERA. So I mean, Johnston, it's hard to not agree with them being number one.
Well, yeah, just like we talked about with Iowa City High and a sub-2 ERA, Johnston, like you mentioned, 1.72, 85 strikeouts, and they haven't done a whole lot of errors overall. Just 16 earned runs on the season. That's very minuscule despite the schedule that they played. And I mean, teams have the hardest time right now. One of the hardest times hitting against them. 166, you're getting what, maybe 1-2 hits out of the entire game against a squad. Again, that's a top 5 mark here. It's not a lot of chance for you to do a whole lot. Again, Waukee taking the number 1 spot in that. But yeah, if you can't get on base, you can't do a whole lot. And so it doesn't matter if you win by 20 or if you win by 3. A win's a win. And I think the thing that separates Johnston from other teams is that they know that, and they're gonna take the win and be happy with it regardless. But also they're never done. So just like we say with Kennedy, with Iowa City High and others, they're never done. They're going to continue on, and they own the top spot for a reason.
Absolutely. 37 team walks and 23 hit by pitches for the Johnston Dragons. I'm not sure where they rank in the state as far as that goes, but that's got to be way, way up there. Again, Johnston, your new number 1 team in Class 4A. Hey, Andrew and I had a ton of fun this week. This wraps up all of our rankings. Class 4A is always the last one we do, so be sure to go check out the other rankings. Drop a comment. who you're rooting for, who you're watching this week. Who did we miss out on this week's rankings? We appreciate you guys for tuning in. And Class 4A fans, we'll catch you next time.